Welcome to Story Jury, where we examine real internet stories and you deliver the verdict. If you enjoy narrated Reddit, consider a like and subscribe. Today's first case starts now. I did not expect a grilled cheese to spark a minor culinary identity crisis. About a month ago, my girlfriend asked for a tomato toastie, what most Americans call a grilled cheese. She wasn't feeling great and comfort food sounded perfect. I figured I could handle bread, butter, tomato, and cheese without embarrassing myself. I love to cook, but I live with a woman who could probably make roadkill taste like Wagyu, so at home I usually let the professional steer the ship. She is absurdly good. People fly across oceans to eat at the places where she's worked. She once turned down a job at a restaurant some critics call one of the best in the world because the salad felt uninspired and the service was off. That's her standard. She has opinions about salt the way sommeliers have opinions about terroir. Her cookware has a no-touch zone, lovingly enforced. So I made a basic toastie. Sourdough, good aged cheddar, butter on both sides of the bread, medium heat. Flip once, no drama, no foam. No reduction shaped like a heart, just a simple, cozy, slightly crispy, melty situation. She took a bite and went completely quiet. I braced for disaster. Maybe I'd committed some unholy union of textures. Maybe the bread was too thick. Maybe I was about to get a lecture about thermal gradients in dairy. Instead, she blinked at the sandwich like it had spoken. "I can't make it this good," she said. I laughed, because of course she could. This is a person who can look at a soup and list every spice in it like she's reading a label. She's forgotten more about food than I will ever learn. The idea that she couldn't match my basic sandwich was ridiculous. I was wrong. For the last month, she's asked for that toastie almost every day. She will come home from a day of crafting dishes that cost more than a week of groceries and say with honest excitement, "Can you make me that toastie?" Like a kid asking for their favorite cartoon. Like the sandwich is the only thing standing between her and the world being okay again. That's where I messed up. I created a monster. And the monster only eats toasties that I make. Here's the strange part. I don't know what I'm doing differently. I've tried to reverse engineer the magic, but there is no magic. It's just bread, cheese, butter, and a tomato slice. I'm not microdosing the crust with nostalgia. I'm not whispering affirmations to the cheddar. I'm not doing anything a functioning adult couldn't do with a pan and patience. Yet every time she takes a bite, her shoulders drop, and this little smile shows up like the day just unclenched. Then she says the line again, half wonder, half accusation. "I can't make it this good." It's become a ritual. I pull out the pan, I butter the bread. She leans on the counter and watches like she's trying to solve a magic trick. The kitchen smells like toasted sourdough and warm dairy. The edges go golden. The cheese loosens just enough. I flip once, let it breathe, and serve it on a plate that would be considered illegal in her restaurants for being too boring. Somewhere in there, I began to understand what was happening. First, she spends her days chasing perfection. Every plate is a tiny thesis about balance, texture, temperature, and contrast. Every detail matters. That kind of focus rewires how you taste and how you cook. At home, when she tries to make a toastie, all that training quietly sneaks in. She worries about evenness. She worries about moisture loss. She worries about the angle of the press and the conductivity of the pan. She can't not worry because the craft is inside her hands now. Second, comfort food tastes better when it's handed to you by someone who loves you. That's not sappy. It's chemistry. You taste relief. Your brain gets to shut the door on decisions for one blessed minute. No notes, no improvements. Just warm, crunchy, melty comfort that you didn't have to earn. It hits different. Third, and this is my favorite theory, I might actually be good at exactly one thing, not overthinking this sandwich. I don't bring a resume to the pan. I bring hunger and care, and a willingness to wait for the moment the underside of the bread sounds right when the spatula taps it. Hollow and crisp, not scratchy. I'm not chasing perfect. I'm chasing cozy. Of course, there's an awkward edge to it. Part of me worries I've insulted her entire identity. She's a world-class chef, and the one dish I can outdo her on is the one dish a college freshman can make at midnight without turning on a light. When she says she can't make it this good, I hear a question inside the joke. How can something so simple escape me? And then I watch her take another bite and stop caring about the question. Meanwhile, I've been drafted. I am the toasty person now. If I refuse, she wilts. If I accept, she lights up. Every time. It's like discovering your partner's happiness button is a buttered rectangle. Who am I to withhold a button? I've tried to hand her the technique, such as it is. I've described what medium heat looks like on our stove, how the butter should soften on the counter first, how the bread should feel when you press the spatula against it. I've described the tiny pause after the flip, the way the tomato slice warms but doesn't flood the crumb. She nods. She tries. It's good. It's just not that good. And we both hear the quotation marks. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the secret ingredient is not a secret at all. Maybe it's the fact that she asked, and I said yes. And then I kept saying yes. Maybe the toasty is just a small, edible promise. I've got you. Sit down. You don't have to be brilliant for this to be perfect. That realization changed how I played it. I don't cut on a bias. I don't drizzle anything. I don't garnish. I just set it down, still warm enough to fog the air. And I wait for the first bite. She closes her eyes like she does when tasting a sauce at work, only softer. Then she breathes out this tiny laugh, like the day is returned to the correct orbit. If you'd told me a month ago that I would be serving daily toasties to someone who can build sauces that take 3 days in a map, I would have smiled and said, no way. Yet here we are, and I've never been more certain that simplicity is undefeated when it shows up at the right time. It's not lost on me that this is the most low-skill victory of my life. I don't get to claim any brilliance. I get to claim a pan, 5 minutes, and a pattern. And still, there's something honorable about being the person who makes the house smell like toasted bread when everything else feels complicated. It's small, but small is exactly what comfort requires. I've tried to outsmart it a couple of times. I've swapped the cheese. I've changed the bread. I've flirted with adding a little something. Mustard, a whisper of onion, a sprinkle of something fancy. Every time, she smiles politely and says, "Can you make the regular one?" The regular one. As if the regular one didn't just walk in here and win a quiet championship. I think about how much of her day is theater. Perfect plates, perfect pacing, perfect guest experiences. A toasty is the opposite. No audience, no script. You only need warmth, crunch, and surrender. The surrender might be the most important part. She gets to put down excellence for a while. She gets to be human, not a headline. She gets to be loved without notes. There's an irony I can't ignore. The person who can taste the microscopic difference between 2 finishing salts can't replicate the satisfaction of a sandwich that requires 0 secrets. And the person who can barely describe what umami means has somehow become the keeper of the most reliable joy in our kitchen. So I've accepted my fate. I am the toasty maker. I'll butter the bread. I'll listen for that hollow tap. I'll flip once and let it rest. I'll hand her the plate like it's not a big deal, when secretly it is. Because every time she takes that first bite and closes her eyes, I see the day slide off her shoulders. I see a woman who spends 12 hours taking care of strangers, letting someone take care of her. And if my contribution to this household is a small golden square that tastes exactly like relief, I'm good with that. If you're waiting for a grand moral, it's simple. Greatness is impressive. Comfort is essential. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to make the regular one again. Here's my final thought. We think the magic is in complexity, in rare ingredients and clever techniques. But the magic might just be in the handoff. One person making something simple, another person letting it be enough. That's not a culinary breakthrough, that's a life skill. And tonight, when she walks through the door and asks, "Can you make me that toasty?" I already know the answer. Okay, on to the next story. I thought I liked heat, until today proved me wrong. There's a legendary wings spot near me that runs spice challenges. The top tier is called Nil by Mouth. They make you sign a waiver, which should have been my first clue. My partner and I decided we'd try one each, make it a playful head-to-head, and see who could last the longest without reaching for milk. Dinner started great. South Carolina barbecue wings, maple habanero, crisp slaw. The menu rated the maple habanero as very hot, but we sailed through them. We joked that the place was overselling the heat. Confidence is a funny thing. It tastes a lot like hubris. Then the challenge wings arrived with disposable gloves and a grin from the chef. The sauce was a bright, alarming red that smelled like pure fire. The waitress mentioned lightly that if someone was already in the bathroom, there was a backup option. A bucket behind the staff-only door. "Is it really that bad?" my partner asked. "It has been," she said, laughing. We counted down from 3 and took a bite. The flavor hit first, earthy and bitter, the kind of extract heat that doesn't pretend to be delicious. I figured I could muscle through. For a few seconds, it was fine. Then, the slow burn stood up and sprinted. My mouth lit up. My lips and throat followed. It felt like someone had struck a match on my tongue. Breathing made it worse. My ears rang. My hands fluttered at my face, like that would cool anything down. Across from me, my partner stood up, hiccuping, trying to breathe through it. The chef set down ice creams. On the house. I could have hugged him. I focused on staying upright, on seconds ticking by, on not panicking, as waves of heat crashed and receded. It was the most intense discomfort I'd felt from food, and it kept climbing. Eventually, after a few small ice creams and some chocolate milk, the dial came down. My partner sat, red as the sauce, eyes wide. Usually, he's never at a loss for words. He managed one sentence. That was no joke. We asked the chef about the heat level. 7 million Scoville, he said. I knew Carolina Reapers hover around 2 million. I had not expected more than triple that. Score 1 for reality. We paid, we headed home, and for a little while it seemed like the worst had passed. We settled on the couch, put on a show, and exhaled. My stomach felt uneasy, but a glass of milk helped. I told myself it would fade. It did not fade. A sharp, searing pain rolled through my gut like a flare, then another. It felt as if embers had reignited, deeper this time. I tried every position on the bed, nothing helped. I moved to the bathroom, curled up on the cool tile, and concentrated on breathing. My hands tingled. My head swam. My body couldn't decide whether to sweat or shiver. My partner hovered, worried, asking if we should call an ambulance. I couldn't get words out for a minute. When I finally could, I asked for the shower. Cool water helped a little. Then my stomach made the decision for me. I got sick. And slowly, thankfully, the pressure began to drop. I took a full shower, then sipped water and milk, and nibbled plain bread until the storm had passed. When the haze lifted, I felt wrung out and oddly calm, like I'd come back from a long, strange trip. In the quiet after, I kept replaying the moment the heat spiked, and how quickly bravado had turned into real concern. Here's what I learned, minus the bravado. First, challenge heat is not the same as spicy dish heat. A good spicy dish chases balance. Sweetness, acidity, fat, texture, aroma. Challenge heat aims for one thing: maximum intensity. It is designed to defeat you quickly. That doesn't make it evil, but it does mean your usual tolerance is not a useful guide. Second, Your body handles extreme capsaicin the way it handles a real threat. You produce adrenaline, your pulse jumps. Your system searches for an exit. Tears, sweat, hiccups, nausea. It is a full system alarm. It feels dramatic because, for your nervous system, it is. Third, the aftermath can be worse than the first burn. The mouth pain is immediate and obvious. The digestive aftermath can arrive late and hit harder. It's not funny in the moment. It's not entertainment when you're the one dealing with it. And finally, the line between fun challenge and bad idea can be thinner than you think. On paper, I knew the numbers. 7 million is a big number. In practice, it took me exactly one bite to realize my curiosity had signed a waiver my body didn't want to honor. There were lighter moments, the chef with the guilty smile, the couples at nearby tables watching us like a live episode, the instant mutual respect between my partner and me when we both realized we were in over our heads. But the core memory is not comedy. It's a clear, humbling signal from my body that limits are real. Back home, as the pain faded, I tried to map the experience in a way that would make sense later. The first phase was mistake denial. This can't be that bad. The second phase was alarm, my body ringing every bell. The third was containment, cooling down, small sips, slow breaths, waiting it out. The fourth was aftermath, a delayed burn that felt deeper and more stubborn. The last phase was quiet, that wobbly relief where you realize you're okay and also never want to do that again. Would I try it a second time? Number. I like heat, but I also like enjoying my evening and keeping my nervous system from staging a walkout. I've had complex, spicy dishes that thrilled me without turning my night into a dramatic monologue. This was not that. If you're heat curious, there are better ways to explore than a waiver and a dare. Learn what you actually enjoy: smoky, fruity, tangy, or slow-building warmth, and find dishes that celebrate those qualities. The show-off version makes for a wild story, but it doesn't make for a good meal. Tep 2-3. My partner and I can laugh about it now, though he still gives me a look when someone at a restaurant says challenge. We've agreed that our competitive streak is better spent on trivia nights and board games, not edible lava. There's also a small, unexpected grace in getting humbled by something as simple as a chicken wing. It reminded me that most of the time, comfort beats spectacle. The best meals we've had together weren't tests. They were slow, balanced, generous. Things that ask for attention, not bravery. I'm typing this from the calm side of the experience, sipping water, feeling normal again. The show we put on pause is still paused. The apartment is quiet. If there's a moral, it's not never try anything. It's know the difference between a challenge you'll remember fondly and one you'll only endure. As for the infamous nil by mouth, it lived up to the name. We signed the paper, we took the bite, we learned the lesson. That's enough heat for one day. Here's my closing thought. Thrill-seeking is easy. Wisdom is choosing which thrills are worth it. I'll keep loving heat, but I'll leave the waiver wings to braver souls. Tonight, I'm sticking with something that respects my taste buds and my evening. Something that burns just enough to make me smile, not see stars. Now, the final story. I accidentally trained my brain to pair romance with croissants. I'm 34, married almost 8 years, and I adore my wife. Our relationship is solid. We laugh a lot, we cook together, we have our routines. There's also a particular date night ritual she enjoys that takes a bit of prep on my end. Nothing wild, just enough setup that, on some nights, I'd rather keep things simple than turn bedtime into a whole production. Separate thread, at least it used to be. There's a bakery I love across town. Their croissants are unreal, all delicate layers and buttery steam. Getting there is a journey. Narrow street, no easy parking, lines out the door. It's not a quick errand, it's a commitment. When we make the trek, we stock up. Pastries for now, coffee to go. A few plain croissants saved for later croissantwiches. Totally worth it. One day my wife floats an idea. What if I run to the bakery while you get everything ready? She says. Then we meet in the middle for a perfect afternoon. Pastry motivation plus romance motivation. It sounded like a win-win. I agreed without hesitation. That first day was honestly great. She returned with a warm paper bag and a grin. I had my half of the routine lined up. We both felt seen and spoiled. It worked so well, we did it again. And again. For a while, it became our weekend rhythm. She'd grab coffee in the flaky clouds. I'd queue up the rest of the night. We'd reconnect and reward ourselves with crumbs and conversation. A harmless, happy loop. Then, the conditioning kicked in. A few weeks later, I drove to the bakery on my own. Halfway there, I realized my thoughts were not about pastry. The bell over the door jingled and my brain flashed to our private life, like someone had spliced two movies together. I laughed it off. Coincidence, right? That night, we tried to be close without the pastry run. My mind responded with a full-color slideshow of croissants. Butter, layers, that tiny crackle when you tear one open. I'm not proud to admit that my stomach growled at the least romantic moment possible. I had, in the most literal sense, Pavloved myself. From then on, pastry meant intimacy. Intimacy meant pastry. The smell of toasted butter set off an entirely different appetite. The bakery's little paper bag became a signal flare. Even the sound of a cash register ping felt like it belonged on our date night playlist. It didn't ruin anything, but it did glue two very different joys together in a way that made normal life awkward. Standing in line behind a glass case, trying to make a serious choice between almond and plain, my face ran hot for no bakery-related reason. Back at home, leaning in for a kiss, my brain whispered, maybe just one croissant? The timing could not have been worse. I wanted romance. My neurons wanted brunch. Once I stopped cringing, the pattern was obvious. Cue, routine, reward. She says, I'll get pastries. I start prepping. We meet, share a moment, then split a croissant while laughter still hangs in the air. Repeat that loop enough times and your brain stops asking what belongs with what. Association isn't a theory, it's plumbing. You reinforce a path, the water follows it. We decided to reset before croissants took permanent custody of our schedule. Step 1 was decoupling the cues. We penciled in pastry runs with zero romance attached. Morning walks, quick coffee, a croissant in the park with nothing waiting at home except dishes. We also planned a few date nights that started from a different signal entirely. A favorite playlist, a long walk at dusk, a movie we both love. No paper bag in sight. It wasn't instant, but it helped. Novelty is underrated. Changing the soundtrack and the sequence loosened the glue. I practiced noticing when my brain tried to run the old script. Here comes buttery scent, here comes the mental jump, and then gently swap the thought for something neutral. Also helpful, saving the croissants for breakfast. Flaky romance is charming until it's late and you've got crumbs in the sheets. We had to laugh at ourselves too. Conditioning isn't shameful, it's human. Anyone with a gym habit knows the power of a ritual. Same hoodie, same route, same song that tells your body, we're doing this. We'd accidentally built a ritual around two great things and stacked them into one. The fix wasn't to avoid either joy, it was to give each one its own lane again. There was a deeper lesson hiding in the comedy. Rewards are great, thoughtful, playful, motivating. But romance gets weird when it starts to feel transactional. I'll do X if you bring Y sounds like bargaining, even if it began as a sweet idea. What we actually wanted wasn't a trade, it was a shared moment. The pastries were never the point was attention. So we built new cues with the same intention. A long exhale, warm light, phones face down, a song that reminds us of a tiny road trip, a joke we've told a dozen times and still love. When the atmosphere says, hey, we choose each other. Nobody's mind is wandering down a pastry aisle. The bakery returned to being just a bakery. I can walk past the display case without blushing. I can enjoy a perfect croissant without rehearsing our evening. And we can be close, on a random Tuesday with 0 carbohydrates involved. Progress. If you've ever glued 2 good things together by accident, I'm right there with you. Brains love shortcuts. They also love being retrained with kindness. Separate the signals. Change the soundtrack. Let the moments breathe on their own. You don't have to fight your mind. You just have to give it a better path to follow. Here's where we landed. We keep the pastries for mornings, when the city is quiet and the coffee tastes like a good decision. We keep the evenings for connection that doesn't need a ticket or a treat. And every so often, when it makes sense, we'll merge the lanes on purpose, because joy deserves a little overlap, as a treat, not as a rule. Final thought. Love is not a points system, and comfort food is not a contract. Bring each other treats because it's fun. Be close because you choose to be close. And if your brain wires 2 celebrations into one, take a breath, change the cue, and give each joy back its own spotlight. How would you rule? Leave your verdict in the comments. Thanks for watching Story Jury and keeping it respectful. If you'd like more cases, consider a like and subscribe. See you in the next one.